So look, yeah, I know you're all bored of hearing about this coronavirus, right? But believe it or not, I actually think this could have an impact on gambling in quite a number of ways. So if you will spare me 5 minutes of your time, then I will talk about coronavirus and how I think it's going to affect gambling. Now, as it stands, there's going to be a number of sporting events and things like that are going to be disrupted. If you are a sports bettor, if you have a problem with sports betting, then this is going to have very little effect on you, because ultimately all it's going to do is it's going to just affect what you bet, what you're betting on, basically. Look, we all know, right? I know from when I used to bet that if you are an addicted gambler and you mainly bet on sports, that if there's no Premier League, because that's been called off, if there's no Europa League, Champions League, there's no Serie A, there's no, Liga 1, whatever, if there's no top flight football, if the Six Nations gets suspended, if your darts, even the Premier League darts gets called off, whatever, if all those things happen, what do? Well, you'll probably bet on the Brazilian second division, wouldn't you, or the Paraguayan Women's League, because, joking aside, that's what we do. So, yes, there are sporting events being called off, which might detract, might deter some of the casual gamblers who maybe have a couple of bets on a Saturday afternoon on the football. However, I don't generally think the betting companies are going to be too fussed about that, because let's face it, a substantial proportion of their income comes from gambling addicts. Now, where I think the coronavirus is going to really hit the gambling industry, and unfortunately not necessarily in a negative way, is at the online casinos. Now, if I was an unscrupulous online casino owner right now, I would be rubbing my little hands together, because I know that there's a good chance already in Europe and in Ireland, but almost certainly probably in the UK very shortly, there will be an awful lot of people who are stuck at home, who aren't able to go to work, who aren't able to go and socialise in the normal way, and are going to spend an awful lot more time isolated at home on their own, bored. And that is basically, that's money time. That's money time for the online casinos, isn't it? They will start bombarding people with offers. I can see it now. I can see exactly what's going to happen. They will have an almost captive audience. Even if you're not typically an online casino player, if you normally do your betting on the FOBTs, if you normally are a sports bettor, if you normally go to arcades, if you normally play fruit machines in pubs, then they will see you as a potential target. I've said before that if you have a gambling addiction and your normal source of gambling is cut off for whatever reason, i.e. you go and you self-exclude from the bookies, then the gambling addiction will tempt you into other ways. If you self-exclude yourself from the online casinos, then you may end up going in the bookies, because you can play similar kinds of games. The addiction is sneaky, the addiction is crafty, and if it can't get its dopamine fix, if it can't get its gambling fix from its normal sources, it will go elsewhere. So why am I talking about this? Well, because now there has never been, I would suggest, maybe a more important time to get those online blocks in place. Okay? Even if you're not a regular online casino gambler or an online bettor, if you normally go to the bookies, if you normally go to the arcades, like I say, there is a good chance that you will be working from home, you'll be signed off, you won't be able to, go out, and you don't normally use the online casinos, there is a good chance that the gambling addiction will just plant that seed, and you can end up losing a lot more money, to be fair, than you can in almost any other way. So do something now. I strongly recommend GamStop, to be honest. It's by far and away, I believe, the most powerful sort of cross-the-board tool out there for stopping you registering and playing at UK registered casinos. Also, what you can do is go online, go onto one of the big affiliation sites, sign up to every online casino you can find, every online casino group you can find, and immediately self-exclude for the maximum amount of time possible. Because that means that if the temptation does come along, you simply won't be able to gamble. While I'm talking about online casinos, I made a video earlier talking about the tragic story of Natasha White, who took her own life after losing a substantial amount of money at the online casinos. And I talked about how maybe there should be a way in which the casinos can judge and assess how much a deposit is affordable to you, in the same way you do if you applied for a loan or a credit card. They take financial information, they work out how much you earn, what your outgoings are, and they will basically calculate whether or not, you know, what the amount you're wanting to pay back is affordable to you. And I suggested that maybe something similar should be implemented with online casinos and online betting companies, where your credit limit, so to speak, i.e. the amount you're allowed to deposit, is determined by your financial circumstances. And you can't just keep depositing an unlimited amount of money, you know, regardless of how much you're actually earning. And so amazingly, this came to light in the biggest possible way today, when BetWay were fined a record amount, I believe it was around £160 million they were fined, because they weren't doing sufficient checks on players' source of wealth. There was one player, I believe, who had gambled, who had wagered more than £4 million, with no hard proof of earnings. They'd questioned him about it on a few occasions, but they'd always taken him at face value at what he'd said. There was another guy who, I think it was nearly £200,000 he had stolen, and he was gambling with stolen money. There was records of players who were on their watch list because they believed they may have a gambling problem. One player was apparently flagged 20 times on the online systems, and within the guidelines set out by the Gambling Commission, they were flagged as many as 20 times as a potential problem gambler, and nothing was done to restrict their access to gambling. So it's like I say, it was just something I was thinking about this morning after reading that tragic story, and it seems now, hopefully, this might be a little bit of a kick up the arse, and maybe this will be something that might not be so impossible to implement in the future. Maybe it will be something where the government will step in and say, if you want people to gamble at your site, you know, you're going to need to know where they're getting their money from. And although there is already guidelines in place, you know, to prove source of wealth, you'll have seen it if you watch something like someone like the Bandit on YouTube. You know, you'll hear that he's been asked to prove the source of his income on a few occasions by different casinos. But this shouldn't be a guideline. This should be law, and this should be. I believe if you're not following these guidelines, you should have your license taken away. It's as simple as that. And hopefully, this thing with BetWay that's come to light will actually give the government, the Gambling Commission, and ultimately the gambling companies the boot up the arse they need to implement more safeguarding measures for the players. And the one last thing I'll say today, a bit of a mishmash video this, but just a few things I wanted to talk about. A couple of people, a lot of people, to be fair, have said some really, really positive things about my videos lately. It's really, really appreciated. A term I hear bandied around a lot is raising awareness. And if you'll humour me, I just wanted to explain why I never use the term raising awareness. In a minor way, it's because I think everyone knows that gambling is addictive, and I don't need to raise awareness of the fact that gambling is an addiction. I think it's important that people are aware how easily gambling can become a problem, and I think it's important for people to have access to the support, advice and help they need if they develop a gambling addiction. However, the main reason I don't like the term raising awareness is because of the connotations that has been brought on this term through social media in the last few years. Raising awareness has gone from a genuine thing people do for a cause close to their hearts, a bit like I guess I'm trying to do through my videos. Raising awareness used to be a good thing. It used to be something where people brought something to the attention of the masses, or tried to bring something to the attention of the masses, because it would be beneficial to society as a whole. Raising awareness now, unfortunately, is a term people use to excuse their virtue signalling ways. People say they want to raise awareness of a certain cause, even if they have no affiliation, no link to that cause whatsoever. Mental health is a horrible example of this. People want to raise awareness of mental health on social media, when realistically what they want to do is show that they're loving and caring people without doing anything beneficial to anyone. This is most apparent when the people who preach about mental health and reaching out and speaking to people are the very people that you know wouldn't be there for you in your time of need. And this is why I don't like using the term raising awareness. Now, I would say I am far from perfect. However, if someone messages me, if someone leaves a comment and someone is asking for my advice, my help, my assistance, the first thing I'll always say is I ain't no expert. I'm not a professional. I'm not qualified. I am a slightly overweight Essex bloke with a gambling problem. But I do have a lot of experience, mostly bad, and so I can share my experience and I can tell you what has helped me. What I can't do is give you professional advice. However, I'll always try and ensure that I get back to you. I'll always try and ensure that if someone is reaching out, that I will be there and I will respond to you. Maybe not straight away. I'm just quite a busy guy, but yeah. But if you're one of these people who shares all this crap blindly on Facebook thinking that you're helping people, you're not. In fact, as someone who suffers from addiction, as someone who has been clinically diagnosed and medicated for depression, I find it incredibly frustrating and actually mildly offensive when I see these nauseatingly self-righteous posts by the most narcissistic people that I know, who I know would never be there for you in your actual time of need. You may question why I follow these people. I have absolutely no idea, to be honest with you. I guess they're friends of friends or friends of the wives or whatever. So, yeah, that was just a bit of a rant, really. Sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. But anyway, thanks very much for watching this really random mishmash of a video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.